On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the Masters of the Wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher Program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Presented by Teresa and David on behalf of Share International New Zealand.
Today we feature part 2 of the keynote talk Let There Be Light, given by Benjamin Creme at the 1998 Transmission Meditation Conferences in San Francisco, USA and Kerkrade, the Netherlands. Part 1 can be found on the website share-international-nz.info under the radio tab. Mr. Creme continues.
About 100,000 years ago, during the late-Atlantean civilization, there was a great war between the forces of light and what the Masters call the Lords of Materiality. We call them the forces of darkness, those beings from a previous solar system whose task it is to uphold that matter aspect of the planet.
The Masters were working with the Atlantean root race for 12 million years, and humanity was advancing rather well and along correct lines. There were successions of great civilizations. The Masters worked openly and gave humanity great gifts of science that we have lost, science much more evolved than ours is today.
The humanity of the time were learning to perfect the sensitive, emotional, feeling apparatus, the astral body. So well did they do it that it is still the most powerful body of humanity. That was the achievement of the Atlantean root race. That is why, until we are halfway between the first and second initiation, we are polarized on the astral plane. Astral polarization means the astral plane is the seat of our consciousness.
Towards the end of that long period, the Masters were guiding humanity forward to become more and more perfect in their astral expression, but also to gain some level of mental ability. There were those who could think, but a very small number compared with the number of people in the world. Anybody who could think gained a measure of power.
A person who could think would today be like a farmer with his cattle. The cattle cannot think. They can emote, they can feel pain. You do not have to go to a slaughterhouse to see that. They cannot think in the way that humanity thinks, but they are beginning to respond to the human mind. Dogs, for example, show quite a degree of astral telepathy and response to the mind of humans, those to whom they are close. Horses, elephants and camels also.
Average humanity at that time became like chattels, the vassals of those powerful people who could think and who began to get very rich and to be very greedy and separative. They responded more to the forces of darkness, the Lords of Materiality. If you think that commercialization of life today has produced a deadly emphasis on materiality, it is nothing to the time in Atlantean days when there were people richer by far than the wealthiest man on earth. I do not necessarily mean in money, but in terms of what they controlled.
There was a great war between the forces of light, the Masters of that time, and the forces of materiality, who were very strong. They had a great following because people loved this materiality. Those who could think forced droves of people to build the empires that they created.
The result in the end was a stalemate, and the Masters retreated into the mountains and deserts of the world. The Andes, Rockies, Cascades, and later the Himalayas, Carpathians, Urals, Atlas, and so on. The Gobi Desert became a retreat where the Masters waited for the time when they could come out again into the world.
They buried the records of these previous civilizations deep in the Gobi Desert, the Himalayas, the Rockies, and the Andes. Very beautiful examples of the thought and creative ability of the masters of the time. They were not made by Atlantean man, but by the masters and their immediate initiates and disciples.
For 100,000 years we have lost the outer example of the light of hierarchy. It has always been there behind the scenes, but necessarily, since it has been hidden, humanity as a whole has forgotten its heritage. We have had to battle seemingly alone, although never actually alone, because always at the time of greatest need, the hierarchy has sent one of their number into the world to act as a teacher for the time, age after age, cycle after cycle. For the last 100,000 years that has been the case. Never has there been a time without that help. The light has always been available.
In more recent times that light was brought fully into the open with the writings of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, Helena Roerich, and Alice A. Bailey. That has enlightened the world in a very definite sense by introducing the teachings to hundreds of thousands of people who have reached the stage where they are responding to the light of their soul and awakening to the light of knowledge. The light of knowledge, the awareness of what lies behind appearances, what constitutes the world of meaning and the nature of beingness, is now available for all humanity when they are ready to absorb it.
No aspect of this teaching, this light of knowledge, is ever withheld from humanity if we are ready to receive it. We ourselves limit by our receptivity, our readiness, the degree to which the light is released.
With the return to the world of the masters as a group after 100,000 years, this light of knowledge will galvanize humanity in the most extraordinary way. There will be a dramatic increase in knowledge along many different lines, particularly in the science of light and the nature of being. The masters go on to explore and develop being, while we have to confine our activity to the nature of consciousness, the awareness of what it means to be a conscious human being.
Quote, "Across the vastness of the universe, this light persists. Through all dimensions and planes, it expresses its nature, conditioned only by the forms in which it shows itself. These forms give access to the light to those whose consciousness rests in the world of matter. But essentially, light is formless, needing no structure to sustain its being."
For most people, not only does light need a form to be recognized, but also the degree to which it can be recognized, known and used depends on the level of attainment of the individual. The masters can contact, absorb and redirect light from far-off cosmic entities like the constellations.
For example, today we are entering the age of Aquarius. That means the light of Aquarius in the form of its cosmic energy is transmitted daily, hourly, moment to moment into our solar system. That is the new light, the new livingness which will galvanize humanity in this coming time.
The light through which we understand the nature of cosmos, livingness, being, does not need a body. It is formless. In its own being it is formless because it encompasses everything. In order to see it, however, to come close to it, register it, we need it to have a form.
If our consciousness is on the physical plane, then what we call the light of electricity is meaningful. But have you ever thought that electricity has a higher aspect which we do not know about, which we have not seen and cannot touch because there is no form for it? We only know the light of electricity because it can light up the room. We can switch it on and off. We can put food in a plain box and it does not get any warmer. But put it in a box and turn a switch, and suddenly this formless electricity becomes heat. That is giving form to what is essentially formless.
Since it is formless, we do not know yet how many levels exist of that formless state. Is it one total, simple, formless state that is everywhere but invisible, or are there different levels of it? With electricity there are different voltages, but essentially the electricity itself is formless. It does not need a form to be. It only needs a form for us to recognize it. Electricity works by binding together form. It holds together the molecules of the body, for instance, and this being so, it can be used.
Maitreya has told us that it will be used to create new organs, that organ transplants will eventually become redundant because the technology of light will allow us to create these organs. I am quoting here from the Master D.K. He wrote about light or illumination, which, I believe, is to do with the technology of light, although he does not call it that. He says, "One of the imminent discoveries will be the integrating power of electricity as it produces the cohesion within all forms and sustains all form life during the cycle of manifested existence."
You may wonder why our body keeps its shape. Our chin and jaw line remain pretty well the same from birth to death, although there are subtle changes like the skin getting slacker and wrinkled. But the bone structure, relatively speaking, remains the same. The heart, liver and kidneys may sometimes malfunction, but they may remain perfectly functioning until we die, at whatever age that is. That is extraordinary. Even the etheric body has a shape, although it is a subtle shape that moves and changes.
The secret is electricity. The energy of electricity at a higher level than a light bulb allows us to see produces the cohesion within all forms and sustains all form life during the cycle of manifested existence. It produces also the coming together of atoms and of the organisms within forms, our organs, so constructing that which is needed to express the life principle. That is a fundamental, deep-seated mystery of electricity, and it is going to be discovered in about the next 40 to 50 years. That will revolutionize medicine, particularly surgery, to an extraordinary degree.
You're listening to the World Teacher Program on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Quote, "Deep within each one of us dwells such a light, awaiting the opportunity to shine forth. Within each glows the potential of all cosmos. Within each, too, is the will to bring forth that light and thus make manifest the nature of God. That light and that will pertain to the soul and come into activity as the result of soul alignment."
Without soul alignment, none of this would be possible. Life on earth is so constituted that soul alignment inevitably comes about because we are souls in incarnation. Each one of us has this light, the potential of all cosmos, and everything that means, the awareness which registers in the human being perfected in the nature of God, the will, love, and intelligence of God, or whatever other aspects of God that we can realize.
There must be dozens of qualities of the nature of God that as yet we do not recognize, but which remain to be revealed. All of that, extended out and out to the whole cosmos, into infinity, makes up our potential. It is an extraordinary thought.
It would be daunting if we had to do it all at once, but it does not happen all at once. It is a slow, gradual unfolding over aeons of time, so we have plenty of time to get used to the idea and to practice. From practice comes perfection. When the masters talk about perfection, it is simply practice. We just practice living correctly. Within each, too, is the will to bring forth that light and thus make manifest the nature of God.
Nothing happens by itself. Man must act and implement his will. Message number 31. This statement is by Maitreya, and I am sure it has been said 1,000 times before. It takes the will to bring into manifestation even the plan of God. Each one of us is endowed with that will aspect, whether we know it or not, whether we use it or not. At whatever level of endowment we have in any given life, as human beings, gods in incarnation, each one has that will aspect of the divine, which embodies the purpose. The will manifests the purpose. When we know the purpose of God, we can be God.
What all of this is emphasizing is the fact that we are not separate from God. There is not anything else but God, or light, in the whole of the manifested and unmanifested universe. And we are all of that. We have all of that in potential, and all we have to do is recognize it, become aware of it, and manifest it. It is not easy, but obviously possible because the masters have done it. Quote, "That light and that will pertain to the soul and come into activity as the result of soul alignment."
We have to bring about soul alignment. We have to align the personality with its vehicles to the soul. Gradually, the will, love, and intelligence of the soul become manifest in the physical plane personality, and the work gets done in this way.
Search within and find the source of all knowledge and love, which are there already in the perfected soul. The soul is not perfecting itself. The soul is perfecting the series of vehicles and spiritualizing from its own nature the matter of this planet. The aim of the incarnational process for the soul is the spiritualization of matter. As it incarnates over and over again, it magnetically draws to itself more and more light, matter of subatomic quality, until the whole body is light.
The fourth degree initiate, not yet a master, has a body which is already 3/4 light. Every incarnation adds to the light to some degree. Each initiation adds tremendously to the radiatory capacity of the individual. This is the result of the rod of initiation, which throws its light into the chakras of the initiate, producing a tremendous change in the radiatory capacity of the individual. We recognize where people are in their evolutionary development by the radiation of their activity.
People seem to have a very vague idea of what constitutes being initiate. All the great actions of the world have been made by the initiates of some degree. Every major change in the world has been the result, in the first place, of hierarchical stimulus working through their initiates and disciples of various degrees. The initiates enunciate the great ideas. These ideas become our ideals. We put the ideals into effect, and the civilization grows. That is how it has always been.
It could not be any other way, because only those with light can absorb light. That is the meaning of the biblical statement, "To them that have shall be given." It does not mean you should get more money because you are already rich. It means if you have the light of spirit, the light of beingness in your being, and you are radiating it, you can attract more. It is axiomatic. The higher can only be attracted by an instrument high enough to attract it.
What we are really doing in our evolutionary journey is creating an instrument, each life hopefully a better instrument, which will be more subtle, more sensitive, its antenna better equipped to realize the light, understanding and consciousness that is there for all to absorb and use if we have the instrument to do it. It is a question of creating an instrument, and it is for that we are in incarnation.
Quote, "Search within and find the source of all knowledge and love. Reveal to the world the light of the soul, and join the ranks of those who serve." As soon as you make contact with the soul, inevitably you want to serve in some way. It is automatic because it is the nature of the soul, not the personality, to serve. The soul seeks to bend the personality into a true reflection of its nature, and that is why the stages of soul absorption and infusion are difficult. The personality is always in rebellion. It does not want to make the effort, or when the effort gets really hard, it runs away.
I have found this over and over again when people talk about their problems. Their problems nearly always result from the fact that they are running away from the very thing they should face. Everyone is fine so long as life feels easy, we are making progress, we can see results, especially seeing results. But come a time when we do not see results, when we are meeting with what seems a big obstacle or difficulty in life, the tendency of many people is to run away from it, not to face and overcome it. We do not realize that these obstacles are put there to bring out from us the strength to overcome them.
We never will become a master if we do not have the strength to overcome whatever we are faced with, however unpleasant or difficult, however a challenge to our self-esteem.
The first thing, I think, is to make an inner decision that we will solve every problem, overcome every obstacle before we try to go on. Instead of running away, we will try to solve it, give it our best to overcome, and if we do that, it will, by strengthening us, weaken every problem that we face after that. The bigger the obstacle, the bigger the challenge faced, the more we are fitted to become initiate and eventually a master.
It is the only way. We have to do it because as a master we are alone. There comes a time when we will realize that we are absolutely alone, without any help whatsoever, except from our own being. Our own being is God, not less than all cosmos. We can only tap into a tiny bit of that at any time, but if we do not tap into it and bring it to bear, we can never use it. We have to learn to tap into our potential.
Quote, "The world stands ready for more light. The peoples everywhere are thirsty for new knowledge of themselves and of God." If that is the case, then it will be given. As soon as humanity sets up a cry for help, for more light, more information, more technology, more awareness, in a word, of its own nature and purpose, then that is given. The cry is heard by hierarchy, and the word rings out, "Open the gates." The floodgates of light, knowledge, inspiration and guidance. All of that pours out from the masters in answer to the cry.
That is what happened in 1875 with the publication of The Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled, H.P. Blavatsky. That is what happened before the war through the Agni Yoga and Alice Bailey teachings, presenting new light and knowledge for the exploring minds of those ready to absorb and respond, and to do something about it to serve the plan.
The plan is being restored. The plan was interrupted by the great war between the forces of light and darkness in late-Atlantean times. The plan, from the Master's point of view, has still gone on. Humanity has evolved, slowly, but the plan was definitely interrupted. Humanity had to be left to find its own way, and, finding its own way, it is stronger. We are much stronger than was Atlantean man. Atlantean man could not think. Millions now are thinking. Mass education has changed humanity profoundly.
Quote, "Because of this readiness, the Masters have prepared themselves to inaugurate a new era of light." This is an extraordinary thing to be saying. Quote, "Limitless opportunities for progress will be offered to mankind. Man will marvel at the discoveries which will open the door to mastery of natural forces. He will stand amazed by the wonder and beauty thus revealed."
Every discovery of reality, or aspects of reality, is beautiful. It is a beautiful unfoldment of the riches of life, the natural system in which we live, which we call nature. The only problem is that we separate ourselves from it. We see nature out there. We think that God is up there and that we are down here. There is actually no separation between any of these. We are not separate from nature. That is why we should not despoil the natural environment. We are not separate from what we call God. It is immanent in every aspect of our being. And we are not separate from each other, which is the great thing we have to discover.
The great heresy of separation brings us to that misery which we call glamour. Glamour is the result of separation, believing in the supreme heresy that we are separate. As soon as we realize that, glamour will end. For the time being, however, it is at the source of every misery, unhappiness and limitation which we can know and impose on our lives. It is that which lies behind the appalling fact of the starving millions, the unbelievable waste of resources, the inequalities, the injustice and the cruelty of life. All of that is glamour and is the direct result of the experience we have that we are separate.
We will find that we are not separate, and that we cannot for long maintain that glamour with impunity. We now have the forces that can destroy all life. We also have free will, and so it is up to us to change direction. When we do, we will be amazed. We will marvel at the discoveries which will open the door to mastery of natural forces. Stand amazed by the wonder and beauty thus revealed. Know for certain the fact of God.
And that's our program for today. If you would like to know more about the world teacher Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, please visit the website share-international.org, where you'll find more information on the various aspects of the emergence.
To inquire about Share International magazine subscriptions, books by Benjamin Creme, or our monthly free of charge newsletter, which contains extracts from the current Share International magazine, the number is 04234 1133, or write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington.
Thank you for listening to us on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. And please tune in to our next World Teacher program on Saturday the 26th of October at the usual time of 10 a.m.
You can listen again to this program and previous ones by visiting the website share-international-nz.info and click on the radio tab.